I know there was a bunch of questions about the Church Online platform, or CHOP, in our previous session here. So I'm just filling space. If you guys got something else, let me know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, there was a question about managing the managing the squad or something like that. I'm not sure if the person who asked that is in this session. If you are, shout out in the comments and we'll answer that question.
Yeah, and I think that they were saying, hey, you got 4 or 5 people, how do you help manage them? One of the reasons why we picked that Church Online platform in Denver is that there's 2 different chats. There's a host chat, and then there's the group chat, and then there's an individual where you can chat somebody privately, or if they ask for live prayer, that pops up as well. And so it's nice with the host chat, you can be typing in there, talking about things kind of on the back end that isn't public with everybody. And so that's a super helpful way. But what I did this last Sunday is Sunday morning sent out to our squad some social media graphics that they could share, but then it also just said, hey, what's most important in the chat on a Sunday morning for your live stream? Because again, is you're trying to do this. The important thing isn't necessarily the content, getting it out there. The important thing is connecting people to the content, and then connecting people to the Bible and driving discipleship from that, right? Amen. And so we got to get people connected. We got to spark conversations, and so that's where the chat becomes such a huge feature and such a huge help. But it's driving the engagement. So in that chat, one, use their name. So, hey Bob, how's it going? Or if you look at their picture and their picture is in a nurse's outfit, I said, man, thank you so much for serving and helping at this time. That's got to be super scary. How can I pray for you? And I did that right in the whole chat, and then just typed out a prayer right there in the chat for them. And then other people did it as well. And so what are we doing? We're driving community. We're driving prayer. We're driving connect. And that's what's one of the most important things that we can do. So
Hans,
that's one of the reasons why we did that.
I was listening to you guys in the previous session, and you mentioned, how, or maybe Tyler mentioned how you guys broadcast to different platforms, or do you just drive everybody to CHOP?
So we use multiple platforms, and Tyler could probably talk more about it, but right now we do the Church Online platform on our website. We do YouTube, and then we do Facebook Live. Okay. And this last Sunday we recorded everything, and so it premiered. And we typically have been live streaming to YouTube, and this week we uploaded it, and it was played a simulated live that we played through on the Church Online, and we didn't realize there was a bunch of people who were like, hey man, where's the YouTube channel? I'm trying to find it on YouTube. Now, I don't think it was that many people, but they were a vocal few that ended up making my life a little bit dramatic on Sunday morning. But yeah.
Yeah, and the reality between Facebook and Church Online, it's just going to be 2 totally different audiences. So, people are, the benefit of Church Online is you can get your people there. Anybody you can filter there is better, because that's going to be an all-inclusive, immersive experience where there's live prayer, there's banners you can post below, and people can click on it to take it to your online giving. You can post a banner to get connected with a group, or anything you can imagine you can post a banner for that's relevant with what's going on in the lesson at the moment. So that's really helpful. That's the benefit of that. There's live prayer, there's chat room, there's banners, and you can kind of design it to look how you want it to look, and they're not going to get distracted by all the other things popping up and tinging and all this stuff. That's the downside of YouTube, is you have all these extra videos that are suggested and not relevant to what you're talking about. And Facebook, there's even more. There's videos, there's Messenger, there's things dinging and popping and all this. So that's the benefit of church online. The benefit of Facebook, the reason that we stream to both is because it's two totally different audiences. On Facebook, you're going to capture everybody that's scrolling through the Facebook world, and the more buzz that you create from your people, the more likes and reactions you get, the more comments, the more shares. Facebook's going to bump that post to the top of people's feeds whenever you do something like that. So that's the benefit there. That's where your reach is going to continue to grow further and further to be able to reach more people. So that's where I go, hey, leadership team, staff, my small group, my worship team, I need you to go and share this post and like it, hit the love button on it, because that sends it up higher. And then that's where you're going to start to see a lot of traction gained on the Facebook platform. And that one's like very active and people can share it easy, it's watchable, but you're not going to get as long of people watch time. You're going to get, on average, maybe 2 minutes, maybe, from people watching this. So that's really an evangelistic tool that you can use that's really powerful. And then there throughout the week you can post little excerpts. Like I just posted on the break one of our worship videos on our Facebook page, and it was played during the service, but it's something that I can kind of use to be able to create more of that buzz.
Yeah, I think the other thing people need to understand when it comes to online is that I kind of put that in my thing I did earlier, was like the QC portion of it. I always have somebody that is technically savvy enough to do a lot of the answering of questions on there, as well as have all the tabs open, but they're all muted. So I'd have, YouTube, Facebook, and then with the website, have everything muted, have everything up, check each one individually, make sure the sound is good, and they can be watching for comments and help moderate and do stuff. And it just kind of helps simplify the process and kill two birds with one stone. And then the follow-up is that person should also be pushing, thanks for joining us. Please, everybody share this on their feed. And I think that's the key to Facebook when you're talking about, YouTube prioritizes live, but it just naturally has an algorithm that pushes stuff. Facebook is very driven towards shares. So if you have, a congregation of 300 to 500 people online, or even 100 people, let's say, and they all share it, there's a potential that could become 200, and then 200 becomes 4, and 4 becomes 8. And then 8 becomes 16. It just can grow exponentially, as we can see with things today. It's like, everything can grow, but they have to push that button, and they have to be reminded about that, and not, I guess you don't want to shy away from telling people to do that.
So there's a question about, I think this is a video you posted, Tyler, about the singers last Sunday, apparently. They want to know how you synced the worship team, I guess.
Yeah, and that was a huge project that so a few of my worship team members from my region here in this building, and then one of the guys from our other region, we started a band that we don't play church music, we just play all of our original music. And so we're meeting together anyways, recording our music. And I was like, hey, we got to figure out something for Sunday, because we're all at home, but we do this anyways. So let's just make it cool. Let's go all in. And one of the guys suggested, hey, we could do it like this multi-screen thing. I was like, I've wanted to do that for my whole life. Like, I've seen these videos, and I was like, let's do it. So we all recorded on our own. We had one person, whoever's leading the song, I had them play an instrument and sing and create the track, like the guide track. And I was like, hey, you just got to stick to a tempo, a metronome, so that we can play along. And then they uploaded it. We shared it and collaborated on our own platforms and our own, like a lot of us use Logic, which is really helpful in the cloud. We can all share that. And anyway, so and then after we all got our recordings done, Travis, one of the other guys, mixed all the audio while I was mixing all the video. And so Travis uses Logic Pro on a Mac, and then I use Adobe Premiere for the video editing. And then, it's just a matter of putting in the time, syncing it up, and deciding where people are going to go, how it's going to move.
So that's definitely step 3, 4, level 4, 5 when it comes to doing production online.
Yeah, I mean that takes a lot of work. We probably put in, I honestly don't even know, maybe 60 man hours for the worship this last week. That's a very rough guess. I'm not sure,
Right.
honestly, but yeah. So we're already working on the ones we're going to put out for this Sunday, and so those should be getting recorded right now and tomorrow and the next day. So
Sure.
yeah, a lot of
I
work.
guess-
And if you have anybody
I
that
like
can
your question,
do
Hans.
these things, they
Oh,
just have to put
I
out
was,
stuff.
I was gonna say, I guess on Michael May's question, I'd like to just kind of know, like, they started streaming 3 weeks ago, and he's saying the sound is coming directly from soundboard and video is a video camera. So I think that really comes down to how you're playing it out. So if you're using OBS, let's say, and you're going camera here, audio here, and you're going in, when you live stream your audio feed, if you go into OBS or even vMix, or I'm not sure what output you're using to live stream, there is a delay in the settings, and you can set that. On average, you're probably looking at 500 milliseconds. I don't know if it's either milliseconds or frames. I tend to see 3 frames the delay on most. So the human eye cannot see 1 frame, they say. Anybody in the business can kind of see a frame or 2 of delay. But anything over 3 frames, and you're out of sync. So if you're seeing it, you're more than 3 frames. So that's kind of the key to that, is looking at it and saying that, like I said before, the audio always processes faster than the video. So our video is going to take longer. So always delay the audio. And I usually just stand in front of the camera, have somebody there just clapping constantly. And just do that before you go live, and make sure your settings right, and just constantly clap and try to sync the timing of the 2 on a pair of headphones to your system, because that'll really make a difference. So, start at 500 milliseconds, and if you keep going and you get to where I clap and the sound is afterwards, then just start working backwards until you find a happy medium.
Yeah, and there's a video that I use for this too, because I'm syncing both our screens here. So on these walls we project our screens, and then we also send to our live stream, which is different syncs, different places. So I play this video. I'll post it in the comments here. And that's really helpful. It has multiple different ways of seeing the sync with blinking lights, bouncing balls, and stuff, which is really helpful. So
cool. Yeah, and you guys keep going. I'm gonna pull it up for him for the audio.
Cool.
Kind of see.
Hey, Jem had a question there about trying to sing. So if you're trying to have multiple people in multiple locations at the same time, there is no technology that'll make that work right now. It's impossible with 12 people to sing happy birthday and be even close to being in sync, because you're going to be delayed by a couple, from a few milliseconds to a few seconds. And so trying to do that singing together just isn't going to work. So what we've, videotaped, what we showed was pre-packaged, pre-recorded, and then it's from one source. So if you're going to do like a Zoom meeting for your church, I don't know if that's what you guys are doing, Jem, but if you're doing like a Zoom meeting for church, you need to have that worship come from one location. So that should be, everybody else should be muted. Everybody else should be, and mute them, and then make it where they can't unmute themselves. And then just have it come from one source, not multiple. There's no way to make that sound right. Does that answer your question, Jem?
So going back to the multiple platforms and having hosts and people to interact, since you do multiple, and we do the same thing in Broward. We have Church Online, and we do Facebook. We seem to get a lot of engagement on Facebook. What's your approach for that, breaking up your? Somebody posted a question earlier about, for a small church, it's very difficult to split. They might have 2-3 people. So what's your advice?
I'll answer, and then I'm sure Tyler has a thought too. We Hey, Brandon, you got some background noise coming through, so I don't know if you want to mute while you're going.
Sure.
I think we're picking
Sure.
up some of the other speakers or something. I think with the multiple groups, with a smaller church, I would recommend picking a platform and kind of making that the best that you can. So if you've got 2 people, I would, pick one, stick there, and just make it work. I think Facebook makes a lot of sense to me because you get the extended reach, you get more people. The cool part about doing church online is if you know somebody else in a different time zone, to go, hey, we need your help just hopping on for an hour for our service, and can you help me do this? And so it'd be a great way to network, even in here, maybe network with a couple other churches where you're flip-flopping, where somebody else in a different time zone is helping you, and then you help them during their service. It could be a great way to kind of drive that engagement. And even if you have one person, I think with a smaller church, if we have so I guess during service, I don't know, there was 1,200 people watching on Church Online on that platform during that service, and probably engaged in the chat were 60 people. So I go, if you're streaming and you got 100 people online, you're probably going to get 15 to 20% of people that are chatting. Now it's much better if you can get more and you're trying to drive that. So one person can really handle the chat in each one of those platforms. So if you have 2 people and you go, we're going to do Church Online platform and we're going to do Facebook, I think 2 people, one person on each could definitely handle it and take care of it. What did you think, Tyler?
Yeah. Restate the question real quick.
So when you have multiple platforms that you're streaming to, how do you handle the volunteers? Like, what's your approach? What would be your advice, on splitting up the resources that you have to handle that interaction?
Yeah, I would say, just like Hans is saying, it doesn't take that many people, but I would say that you want to make sure that your people are prepared and give them tips on how to interact, how to engage, because it's something that, your normal person might not think about. Like, oh, I'm online, this changes everything, and how do I talk to somebody? Like, but I just, like, our person that normally hosts our Church Online chat on a Sunday, I just, every once in a while I have an idea, so I send it to her, say, hey, maybe at the end of the session, you could post like thanks so much for joining us. Go check out this, and kind of guide people to the next thing. And so I would just say, really give them a lot of instruction, a lot of ideas on how to connect with people. And I won't get into specifics on all of that stuff, because I think there's so many resources out there. You can just look up on Google yourself, be able to go, how can I engage with people online in a chat room? How can I be able to connect people? Or how can I take church from online to in person? There's a lot on that kind of stuff. So I would just say those people you do have, prepare them well, equip them, empower them.
Yeah, and I forget who it was. I think it was the other panelists in the previous session. You have to be authentic. You have to be who you are. Yeah. You can't fake it, and that has to come across. I think I mentioned it on live streaming part 1. Right now for Broward, we do a really good job capturing those people who see it and then they come into the building, and that is basically where we're at right now. We're trying to be able to do those that engagement online and really develop those things, and it's part of building the team that's able to communicate. But it has to be genuine. It has to be, it can't be forced. If people don't want to talk, that's fine. You just got to let it be. As long as the word goes out and does its job, right? That's really the main part.
Yeah, and there's some things that aren't going to work. Like we had a couple people that, you know, when I was reading through the chats, I was like, oh, it's a little much. It's a little forced.
Right.
And some of that's going to be because we're online, but we just want to make sure to keep it genuine, like you're saying, and like really try to engage people. Like, share your thoughts, but also with your thought, ask a question, get somebody else to participate. Even if you can have a couple people like with that mindset, like, hey, we're gonna kind of go back and forth, and then other people will join in. Make sure it's not exclusive. But the other thing, my last thought on it is, I wouldn't have everybody who's hosting be a technical host on the platform. So I wouldn't have them be partners on your Facebook page or Church Online. I wouldn't have them labeled as a host, because everybody can see who's a host. And so if you have two hosts that are just talking the whole time, then that kind of gives a different perception. So we want it to be just authentic and not just look like, oh yeah, this staff is talking to each other kind of thing. You know?
The benefit of what the situation we're in right now is the fact that the whole church is watching online. So on Facebook, it's really, fellowship, and people who are not hosts, to your point, are coming in and they're engaging with people. They see someone from Tennessee and they're like, hey, I'm from Tennessee. And that really, that's your church being, who they are online.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of like, on the technical side for live streaming, I kind of feel like with the scenario we're in today, what I look at is it just kind of is forcing people to finally work from home. And it's also finally getting people to understand that things can be done remotely pretty satisfactorily, I guess you could say. So here at Truce, we have a Google Drive, a business account. I think it's like $10 an email, $10 a person, but you can build a really solid team using that. And Google's very generous with their online data. I mean, it's unlimited drive space for us. So I toss 250 gig files up and send out big, folders to my editors and say, get it done. And they download it while they're getting coffee and doing other stuff. They edit and put up a file, and then they delete them off their drive. But it just makes it to where, I know it's hard for people to relinquish control, but this is the time to delegate. This is the time to get everybody into one space, communicate and say, here's your files. This is what we're looking for. And then what do you do from there? And you can put the file back up on Google and you can review it that way. We use Vimeo as a great resource to upload our files, and they have a review link on there so they can upload it, be an uploader to your Vimeo account. And then you get the file, you can add notes on the time codes of when something is like, this seems long, or that fix this transition or whatever. Just put little notes in, and it makes it so easy for them to just make the edits, finish it, and get back to it. So I think that, trying to work on your online workflows with people and saying, hey, I know we're stuck at home, we can't do this, but we still need to get our stuff up before Easter. So to get it up before Easter, you need to start taking pictures, getting videos, uploading them to a central source. Put an APB out there for people that can edit for you in your community that want to be part of something, and get them to join and have fun and learn. They might just be learning, but they need something to learn with. So this is a great way to get them involved. And then, once you build a rapport, it becomes easier and easier as time goes. So on the technical side, I try to say, try to use as many cloud resources as you can right now.
Yeah,
I think sorry, go ahead.
My favorite meme during this entire time is, I guess we're finally going to find out what meetings could have been an email.
Yeah,
that's right.
Sorry.
Hey, Brandon, you want to talk a little bit more about your team? I mean, you said editors. Please expand on that.
Yeah. I mean, over the years, I worked at Stars for 13 years, doing post-production. So, you find everybody freelances. So, and then building that network through people that you've worked with, as well as, a lot of students. So there's a lot of students at CU Denver. There's a lot of students around the country. There's a lot of film schools. And one simple email to any of those film schools, if you just email them and say, hey, we have a lot of stuff we need edited. We'd be happy to, you may be looking for some interns where they can get college credit and stuff. So that's an opportunity. But then there's also, you can pay them, a minimum wage that's like, you're getting a lot done in that time, and it gives them something to build a reel with. And you just build more and more relationships that way. So it's, over the years, I've done a lot of work in LA as well as Colorado and Florida and Atlanta and out in New York. So you kind of just start building up a network of people that you can just put it up on a Google Drive and send them files and say, go at it. And so it's kind of like, I guess the church should expand and try to centralize that resource, where if you had, 10 editors ready to go that all the churches could kind of tap into, I mean, they would love it. They want the consistent work. And if you can give them 10 to 20 hours of work a week, they would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah. Awesome.
What's your approach in Denver for things like this?
You're talking about just for editing, for
Tyler,
streaming?
I mean, I just met you guys, so I'm not sure who works.
Yeah, I mean, like in my scenario, I have several computers. Like we have a studio set up in Burbank, so a similar studio to our podcast booth that we built out there with 3 cameras, or multicam with a vMix setup. So I can remote into that computer and I can operate it remotely. And the same thing here. So Splashtop business is a very good. It's like, I don't know, $5-10 a month. Again, is how can you think outside the box and be able to operate normally? And Team Viewer is another opportunity. They're a little more expensive, but again, the Splashtop, I can log in. I can have all my computers with the remote app, and you can have multiple remotes. So if somebody needs to work on a computer that's at the church, you can have a remote app built in so that you can access your files and move things and continue to operate without having to actually leave.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, and I think here at Denver Church of Christ, that's kind of in line with what Kurt just asked. If I gave a quick tour of our sound video area, what each station is used for. It's kind of easy because I'm right here. But so here's our manned camera. We just got it set up. It's actually standing over our last pew, and we have that blocked off, roped off, so people can't sit there. Then he stands on that box. So that's our primary manned camera, and then right next to here is our graphics Mac. So we send all of our graphics for our screens, which appear here and here on the walls, from this computer. That's where we send our confidence monitor from. That's where we send our lyrics for a live stream from. So it all comes from this computer, and then it's sent over to down here is our server box, where we have the ATEM1ME is our video switcher, which is right there-ish. And then Living as One is our live stream encoder. There's some power sources here. There's an amplifier here for our sound that goes into the rest of the building. Some networking stuff here. So all the graphics and stuff are sent into there through Roland V1 HD. It's a little video switcher that we use to send just multiple different sources. And then
that most importantly removes HDCP from Macs so that you can use other resources. It's one of the cheapest ways to get that done.
Yeah. And then all of that sends into a decimator, which is a video scaler, which you have to have if you're using a Mac and Blackmagic stuff, because they don't communicate well. Mac only sends 60 or 50 frames per second, and Blackmagic doesn't accept either of those. So you have to scale it with a decimator. So all of that is sent the decimator then into the ATEM. And then right here I have my technical director. He's the one who switches all of our video feeds. He has a monitor here with eight different feeds, a program and a preview monitor, and then a comm system for the two man cameras and himself. The comm system is all wired, all analog, very old school, and it's what I had lying around because budget is limited always. So
Absolutely.
he uses that. He switches on a little laptop that controls the ATEM, and that sends to our live stream, which is monitored on. Oh, it's being covered by a chair. Okay. Yeah, it's a little Blackmagic 4K assist right there. It's where we send all of the final video feed sends into this little monitor, and then the final audio feed sends into this monitor. It compiles it, it sends it to Living as One, the encoder, and sends it up to the cloud. And then this is just a little lighting board. We don't do a whole lot with lighting. That's something that we want to upgrade shortly, hopefully. And then right here sits my broadcast audio engineer. So we use an X32 Behringer, very like cheapest, kind of good quality digital board you can get. If you don't have a digital board, get one. It's worth it. So anyway, so that's what we use for our in-house audio. And then right next to it, we have a Mac. Actually, wait. Oh, I moved the Mac over there because of the 6 feet apart rule. So I was trying to spread it out. But normally it sits right here. And I have somebody controlling a mix from this board on the computer, and then sending that separate mix to the live stream. So that's super important. If you're live streaming, you have to focus on the audio more than the video. You have to. It's backwards of what you might think, but somebody will watch a video if it has really good audio but crappy video. Somebody will not watch a video if it has crappy audio but a really good video. So that's just something that if you don't have it, invest whatever you have to do to get a separate feed. The thing that's going to make that easiest is if you can get a couple mics. You can see right there's a mic, and on the other side as well, that picks up our room sound. It's an ambient mic. That way you can add the energy from the room, a little bit of natural effects on top of what you're adding from the board. So that's really, really important. We use, the person that's controlling our broadcast mix uses in-ear monitors that are noise isolating, not noise canceling, but noise isolating. And then they have these huge ginormal earmuffs. like the
airplane style.
Like, yeah, the best earmuffs you can buy that are passive. And it looks goofy, but it blocks out most of the sound between those two things. But then you just have to compensate and listen to the lows are going to come through still. Congregation singing is still going to come through, so you have to kind of compensate. Anyway, so that's important that they can have that they can hear separately. Ideally, this person will be in a totally separate room down the hall where they can't hear anything that's happening here. But that's not where we're at currently.
Yeah. And I was going to kind of mention, I guess, about the one of the cheap free options to use for communications is they call it walkie-talkie. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I don't know if you froze it up, but like walkie-talkie on your iPhone is available and it's free. And walkie-talkie, you just put your earbuds in and you pick a channel, and all my guys can talk to each other, and you can hit a button. And I mean, it's just wireless and it's easy, and you don't have to wire a bunch of stuff when you're doing comms, and it's the best way you can start. So one person on here, but wow, that's a huge. Okay.
That's just
you put a huge.
Good.
So my cut and paste right there. Sorry about that. It lost all the formatting, but somebody was asking about, hey, that's awesome. I can't afford all of that. And the cool part is we didn't buy all of it at one point. We added little by little by little. So I just gave you under 200, over 200, like gave you some options. I know Brandon came up with one that's probably prettier with graphics, but here's a bunch of different kind of random options. And so, sorry.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to add to that is, if we work as one church, there's times when I'm upgrading and there's things that I want to, that I used in the past. They're better used by somebody else, and I can, we can share supplies, we can share knowledge, we can share all of those things. So if there's something that I have that I might no longer be using, it's better than you trying to get it from brand new. I can just pass it off or whatever it is. But that's what this conference is so good, because we're connecting as churches, and we all have the same goal, right? And if we can help you not only with the knowledge and our experience, but with gear itself, because we understand that it is cost effective. So a bigger church is going to have more resources. Hey, by all means, I posted my email last time. I'm happy to give you, and I'll just type it in here. Reach out. I'm sure Brandon and Tyler and Hans would love to do the same thing.
Yeah. But I think that wouldn't be a bad idea though, to have like a central equipment resource for secondhand usage of equipment. Because like you said, as people upgrade, there are things that you might have on hand that you can be like, hey, these are available. And then, anybody that's registered would get a notice or an email saying, hey, any church out there that's at this, starting out level, we'd be able to supply some low cost options, and, it's free or donated or whatnot. So, but I know Kurt had one really good thing that I deal with on a constant basis. It says, how do you do two mixes? And that's kind of key to the whole thing, is that your live mix is always way drastically different than an online mix. So like the way I usually do it is, if I'm going through a board, I try to take like sub mixes out into either another board or into a computer. So like with vMix, I can go with multiple inputs into a secondary system, so I can have a breakout of just the vocals. I would want to then a breakout of the instruments, and then I want a breakout of the drums. And then I also want, everything going through a reverb and just cranking that down. Like you would have that on a separate channel that you could just bring in a little reverb kind of over the whole thing, just to give everything some room. So it depends on what kind of board you have, but if even on the simplest boards, you can do an aux mix. So you would want your main live feed, and then out aux 1, or let's say aux 1 and 2 are used for your floor wedge monitors on stage. If you have aux 3, make your live mix for the live stream aux 3, and put headphones on like Tyler was showing with the earmuffs, and adjust that mix so that everything sits well and is full sounding. And you don't need the vocals to be like way above the music, because online it just tends to separate, and then all you hear is people wailing and you don't hear any music. So you just want to get a good mix on that way, because again, live mixes, you might be cranking the bass and the drum and like the guitar solo and some other things, and everything's kind of live, or the vocals might be the hottest thing. But in a live stream mix, you want to focus on like, a very CD quality like mix. So therefore you want to be able to just adjust it separately. So you either use an aux mix, or you feed out of the board what I call VCA like sub mixes into a system that then you would kind of finesse it.
And to add to that point, when we started, we didn't have all of these options. We didn't have someone. We still don't have someone doing a second mix. If you're able to do just go in the strength you have, like I said yesterday. Yes, it's not gonna sound production quality, but it's still gonna get out there. It's better than not doing anything. So don't feel like you got to start at the $3,000 level when you are the $100 level. Just go with it, and little by little improve, because that's where we were. We our first stream, it's almost like when I look back maybe 3-4 years ago, it was terrible. It was terrible, but you know what? People started watching. So us, we're in, we have production experience and all of those things, and we want to make sure that it's, top notch, and that's understandable. But we also have to sort of balance the need for getting out there versus the need to get the best productions, right? God's still going to make things grow, because that's ultimately what this is all about. It's not about getting viewers, getting, likes or followers. Is about making, having that people hear the word, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but like if you're starting out on the very beginning level, just a simple pair of condenser microphones in the room, make all the difference than using an iPhone or anything else, sound wise. So really just having two microphones, and you would listen to them through your system and say, okay, maybe roll off the low end, bring a little bit of highs up, and get it to where it sounds like what your ears are hearing. Then whoever's doing the live mix, if the room sounds good, then those two microphones are going to sound pretty dang close.
Right.
And I think that's what you're kind of shooting for, is like, well, if you can't afford to really focus on a secondary mix, get the main mix in the room sounding good, and then get two house, microphones that you can pinpoint at the stage and really get something that like gives a representation of what you're listening to and makes it feel like you're there at least. And I've done that plenty of times in many major spaces. So.
Yeah. Sorry, am I coming through now?
Yes.
Yep.
So the power at the whole building just went off for like 5 seconds and then turned back on. But that also meant my internet died. So I had to get all that started. And then the lights never came back on back there. So that's unfortunate. So
this is the good segue then. Like
lighting.
Why don't you guys talk about your experience? Well, not even just lighting, and just the fact that how many live streams have you had just completely go down? Like it happens.
Yeah.
So when we started, it was we were using this system. I forget what it's called, but it was all based on an iPad and some wireless, transmitters. We had two cameras. They had HDMI out. They were not synced. The color balance was completely off, and we were using the church Wi-Fi with 500 people there sharing the same Wi-Fi, probably 3 megabytes up. It was totally unreliable. It would break up all the time. So, those are the experiences that we had. At some point we had to switch over to just the cell phone actually broadcasting all of that signal, because the Wi-Fi at the church wasn't reliable. It failed more than it actually went out. It would drop back, it would drop out halfway through the service. It was just terrible.
I know a lot of churches are in that boat, and maybe you're in a third world country where the Wi-Fi, and honestly, sometimes that Wi-Fi is better than it is here, but maybe you're at a location where the Wi-Fi isn't great, or you don't have internet at the church building. I would highly encourage you, record your service and then redo it at a different time.
Absolutely.
And I think honestly, in this time, if you're not allowed to meet together, there is a huge benefit to not doing it live. Have it recorded, replay it whenever you need to. And obviously, it's a lot harder to preach to an empty room. So I know a lot of ministers are reticent to do that, but it's better overall, in my opinion, way, way better than a glitchy feed that may or may not come through accurately. And then you've got some ability to tweak some of the audio. You've got some things that you can do. So if you go, we can't live stream, that's okay. You can kind of fake the live stream really well.
Yeah. And that's like what we had to resort to even for our church. Because when we have our congregationals, we don't have access to internet. And I tried streaming from my hotspot on my phone a couple times, and it just was unstable and crappy quality at best. And so I reverted to, you know what, I'm willing to put in the time, the couple days after, to mix our video, to mix our audio, and make it a legit product that we can put out. Granted, that gets uploaded on a Wednesday, and that's not my favorite thing, but I think you got to do what you got to do to get your stuff to your people. And I think that's important. The benefit of it, I think the thing about that is it puts the time and the effort on one or two people as opposed to splitting it across a team on a Sunday morning. But there's always going to be hiccups with live stream. I mean, you watch the Super Bowl, every year there's a hiccup. Every year they lose power, they lose a signal, they lose audio or something. So
A
just
wardrobe.
But just keep that in perspective. Hopefully your minister never loses his wardrobe while he's preaching.
Right.
Yeah, we'd lose more than just a wardrobe, right? You might lose your salvation.
Yeah.
Now with Zoom, everybody's preaching from, with shorts.
Yeah. But yeah, so if maybe you're a smaller church and you don't have anybody that can do audio mixing or video mixing, there is somebody in your church who can work with a computer or who has a computer that's willing to serve in this way. Honestly, the person that I have doing our broadcast audio mix, I've trained from the ground up and is not good with computers, doesn't have a good ear, but has the most willing heart out of anybody on my
Amen.
worship team. And so that goes a long ways. And she puts in more time than anybody else to make it as good as she can. So I think those are the type of people that you can extend your vision to and sell them on, hey, look, this is the power of what we're doing, and this is the difference that it's going to make if you're willing. And then you can connect them with resources, connect them with us, and we can help, or there's somebody around that knows how to do it, and we can give like very simple things that can help. If you have a computer, you can do it. There's free programs for video editing and audio editing that you can use if you're in a smaller church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question here? What are you guys going to do for Easter in Broward? Have you guys talked about it, or have you heard of ideas? Or we were told we could meet, and then like 24 hours later, our stay-at-home order was supposed to end. So we at least were going to be able to come together and do a service at the building, but we can't even do that now. Have you guys talked about it?
This is a very fluid. We were going to do this drive-through service where we're going to live stream it or maybe do a production, but so people would be able to stay in their cars, and we have a yard, a big yard where maybe we could get 20 cars and then record that and then stream it later. That's not going to happen anymore. So we're sort of assessing what's going to happen now. We thought about just doing, a set of songs just on a Saturday, recorded just like we do our Sunday service, but just live stream that. We haven't landed yet because it keeps changing. So right now we just don't know exactly what we're gonna do. We'll do something. Yeah. We just don't know exactly what that is.
Well, and it's funny because I always tease that I have like an unlimited threshold for change and fluctuation or whatever, and I go, man, the Lord is testing me in this one at this point, because I'm about ready to go, dude, I'd really love a consistency and a plan. And so, man, for our people who have are so used to the routine and who really like thrive on routine, those high J people that are that are into that reliability, consistency. Yeah, right. I mean, it's tough for them. So there's all these ideas that I have, and I go, or do we need to do something that feels really comfortable? And what we decided to do for this last Sunday, or starting this last Sunday, was rather than trying to pretend like we're live streaming from church, like we've rebranded it a bit to saying, hey, we're doing church at home. And the church was never about the building. It was always about the people. And so we filmed all of the segments from people's homes. We kind of made it more of that homey feel, had it pretty lighthearted in different sections. So I think it helped a lot. And I think so, but now with Easter, I'm really wrestling with how do we do that? How do you make it great? We have always done something super fun. Like my favorite service of the whole year is Good Friday. So we've always done a Good Friday service. In the last couple of years, I've taken and built a cross on stage, like with a axe and a hatchet, like live as I'm preaching. So it's like one of our great attendance, great pull in for people. Teens love it. And I can't do it this year at the building. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm trying to figure that out, because I go, technically we're not even supposed to. I can't do that in my house, but so we're trying to figure out, do I go into the woods? Do I do that? And so it's just, I mean, there's all, and again, then I go, are we overthinking it? Because what's the goal? Help connect people, help pull them in, and making sure that that's really what we're doing, and what's going to be most connecting at this time.
Holding across the comments over here.
Yeah, and I think with any of this, it's gonna kind of come down to, like, you have to embrace the truth. You have to embrace where you're at and what your situation is. Like, if you go to our service that we streamed this last Sunday on our Facebook, I started with this intro of, here, I'll post the link real quick.
It was a good intro.
I started with an intro, just kind of leaning into the fact that, we're not meeting in a building. We're not streaming our service live. This is different, but there's benefits and there's downsides to that. Like, the hard part is we can't connect here, but there's really a benefit in it, and being able to show people that and help them connect and go, don't take this as we can't do church anymore. We can't connect anymore. In fact, we can connect in some ways better than we could when we're here, and you can get people's response throughout on the chat room, and we can share those things. I think people are more willing to share online when their face isn't being seen than when they're in person around 500 people, and they have anxieties about being around people. So check out that link that I just posted, and it has right at the beginning. I mean, that's the whole service, but right at the beginning is an intro of just an idea of how you can do it. And then the welcome is really good too. Like, hey, we're, embracing, this is church at home. And it's really funny. I think the Zillmans did a great job with it, but just some ideas there. I would say lean into it and help people to connect rather than kind of avoiding an issue or avoiding the reality of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch a little bit, and I don't know how much time we have. We've gone,
We're like 10 over.
So real quick on the team, you mentioned your team and training your team. And yesterday I shared that my team is 8 to 10 people. They're on a rotation. There are 2 people who went to school for TV production, but the rest, and myself, I work in the industry, but the rest are all volunteers who have zero knowledge of TV production. They have willing hearts, and you got to tap on those people. You got to tap on those people and say, hey, do you want to help? Here's something. I will teach you. I will train you. Don't worry. We're not blessed with 10, 15, 20 professionals and make this happen. At the end of the day, God is in control, and God is blessing your efforts. God is the one who's making all these things happen. It's not, I can't rely solely on what I know and what I do. I have to bring people, and I got to pray to God that He blesses the efforts, right? So just remember that you don't need a whole bunch of people who have a ton of knowledge. We are here to help each other, tap on those shoulders. People who have no knowledge of TV production will be able to help you. You just got to help them understand what the goal is, what you're trying to do. It is a ministry. It's not, it's not just something cool that we're doing. It is a ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you can get them to focus on one task, that's kind of the key too. It's like, you bring somebody in, like I could sit my mom down and say, do this one thing.
Right.
Just do the one thing well, and she'd be willing to do it. And that's the key, is like she'd be willing to do it. So therefore, make them shine in that one thing. And then as you get going, eventually people can multitask. But the professionals are used to multitasking. So that's what you get with a professional.
Yeah, and I would say Eddie to comment. He said, it's a lot of stuff. I can only understand about 20% of this. Let's see. When was that, Hans? Was that 2 years ago? I went to these conferences.
Oh yeah,
2 or 3 years ago?
CTIN or CITN.
Yeah. I went to 3 conferences within 1 week about worship, technology, and facilities on, pretty much church tech. And this was kind of at the beginning of me implementing a lot of these things. And I went there and I was like, I don't even know how to ask a question. Like, not only do I not understand what they're saying, but I don't even know how to ask a question to clarify what they're saying. And this was 2 years ago. And like, I think if you yourself are willing to invest, you can get there to understand all these things. And it's just a matter of putting in the time. YouTube, lots of time on YouTube figuring this stuff out. And like even yesterday and last night, I've been researching like nonstop because there's things that I don't understand, like about copyright issues. And that's one thing that if you're live streaming, definitely look into copyright. If you play any music that's not your own on a Facebook live stream, you will get taken down. And so that's something to consider when you're choosing a platform as well. YouTube will flag you, but not take you down.
Right. And Facebook, even if you play the video, if you play somebody else's music really well, they'll pull it down because they think it's theirs. So, we've had stuff flagged that we were playing and we have the correct licensing with CCLI, and especially now they don't have humans manning it. So it's all bots. Yeah. And they're just basically saying, you're going to have to deal with it. Don't use other people's stuff. So even things that people have paid for and copyrighted, that they've paid for the copyright to be able to play.
We used to play announcements right before we went live. So we had like a 5-minute sort of countdown with announcements, but we had the music that we play for, fellowship underneath all of that. And then Facebook started tagging our videos. So
yeah,
things that you have to consider.
I think some of that also comes down to like, there's 2 options. Like, what are you trying to get? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, if you're trying to reach out to people and stuff versus like facilitate the church. So if you're facilitating the church and you're saying, hey, people want to worship, it almost, it's better to maybe put a portion of it on Facebook and drive them to your website because your website is regulated by you. Mm-hmm. And it's going there and they can watch the entire service, not worry about anything getting taken down. There's back ends on Facebook you can create private pages on Facebook, and you can also do that on YouTube and do private streams so people can watch. I think that's kind of like, and then maybe you go live just during the sermon on the outward facing stuff. I mean, there's so many ways you can kind of chop it up, but I think that's where you have to kind of decide up front and say, hey, we don't need everything. Like, we want people to worship, so therefore we'll have a worship live stream, and we know it's going to get taken down, but they can still achieve what they want to get done, and then have a sermon live stream and have it kick into that so it doesn't get kicked out. You don't want to combine the 2 if that's happening.
Yeah, and a couple resources here. Kurt just posted something about CITN. Yeah, you can look up CITN. Church IT Network is what that is. I would all of you go on to Facebook and get onto Church Sound and Media Techs. Church Sound and Media Techs. Hans, could you post a link to that for me? And
I'll pull it up right now.
Yeah. That's where I get most of my knowledge is from this group. And, there's such a huge talent base. Like, 30,000 people I think are in this group. Wow. And most of them are professionals, and all of them work with churches, and like, you got people from the Elevation production crew on there and all this stuff. And so just a great resource. You can search anything on there. And then I wanted to address Chanel's question about pre-recorded music. So yeah, if you play walk-in music, walk-out music before and after your services, YouTube, that's fine. You'll get flagged for it. They won't take your stream down. Most of these worship production companies are like, okay, we get it. You're using it in your service. We're not going to charge, but you can't monetize your video, which none of us really are doing that anyways. But Facebook, you will get immediately taken down. You can't debate it. You can't dispute the copyright. They're not going to do anything about it. They don't care. All they know is there's a copyright, and they're not trying to deal with it. So we've actually resorted to muting our entire live stream up until service starts. Like, even when we're in here, we have walk-in music, and we have it our live stream entirely muted. So you just kind of have to work with those things. So Chanel, I would not play music before or after your service if it's not
Now,
yours.
Not yours. So what you could do is have somebody record a couple of songs, and even if you made that a little bit fun, like, hey, everybody throw, if you have a couple people in your church, or if you reach out to some other church that has produced it in your family of churches, maybe, and play something that's live that you can have permission for, that you can do that. And Chanel too, I know this last weekend a bunch of churches from the Church Media Tech Facebook group, a bunch of churches took their video and uploaded it for the first time instead of streaming live. So if you're streaming live, you'll get away with it typically during the live stream. It won't crash it. But if you upload it, then they go to press play, and they either lost their video or lost all of their sound, because they might leave it, but they'll mute all of the audio. And they're supposed to only do it for the song, but it's just problematic. So if you're going to do something that you're worried about, at least make sure you live stream it. So even if you pre-record it, you can play it live. But if you upload it first, you're going to have some trouble. For sure. And so it's not the same if your worship team sings it. If your worship team sings it, you should be okay. They shouldn't flag it, pull it down from that. And that I put in the chat the link for all the information about CHOP and then that Church Media Sound Tech. If you're super sensitive and don't like being made fun of a little bit, or like are hyper religious, don't even join that group. You don't comment. You will get your feelings hurt. You will get destroyed. But if you have an emergency on a Sunday morning, you can post almost any question. You'll get 3 or 4 responses, and then you'll get 2 or 3 that are making fun of you. For a while, everybody posted the answer to any question was X32. X32. So if you ask a question and somebody says X32, it's just their way of saying you should probably just Google it, because there's probably an easy answer. So
yeah.
Cool.
So
awesome, guys.
Well, I think
there's also some free libraries of music that you can use commercial. Well, they're not commercial, but they're free to use. You could play those in your intros until your worship starts. Things like that. That's what we did last time, instead of playing the walk in, walk out music.
Yeah, create your own intro is key. I think it's really just trying to drive people where you want them to go. So if you're trying to drive an initiative for food banks, if you're trying to drive an initiative for different things, push them that at the beginning and have something looping, so that it doesn't matter when they drop into the live stream, you're pushing that and getting the message out there. So
yeah, and just to be sure too, it's not just walk in, walk out music. Also think about this: if your preacher plays any videos during a sermon, chances are they're copyrighted, and that will get booted as well. So keep your eye on that.
Because if they came from YouTube and you're wondering if they're copyrighted, they are. You don't have permission now. But people still may play them. But all right.
Cool. Well, I think we're all wrapped up, and we got a lot done, and just want to thank everyone for being here.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Best of luck.